Haha, we on, we live. What's cracking, y'all? Anybody on there? Somebody on there? Somebody get on it. What it do, people? What it do? Oh, where we at? We're here, we're here. All right. So let me see. Anybody? So basically tonight is about stories, fights that I done had. I done had a few, one or two during my day. Back in the day, when I was a kid, I was fighting all the time. I don't know anybody that grew up in the '80s. You know how it is. I was born in the '70s, but I grew up in the '80s, and it was grimy. We was what I'm saying. I remember playing football in the street, and then you would hear somebody yell "car," and everybody would get out the street because a car would be coming and they'll run your ass over too. But we were on, what I'm saying, we were on not a real busy street. I grew up on C Street. On C Street. Nah, but I grew up on C Street and Quail. That's right between 39th and 40th. And actually, we were on the hill and we were looking across the freeway at the police pistol range on Home Avenue. If anybody knows where that's at, you know. So we were so close though, it was like it was a shooting gallery all the time. Police was always down there, shooting, doing their practices. And I was a little kid, so our dogs was messed up because they hearing gunfire all day, every day. The dog was freaked out. But he lived. He had to deal with it. You had no choice. But being up there, we were up on the hill, so you could see the freeway, which was the 94 freeway, and we were right on the hill looking over the 94 freeway. But you can see, if you look down the way, the 805, where the 805 and the 94 come together. But what I'm saying, yeah, we was right up on the hill right there, and when I grew up, it was a lot more canyons. It was a lot of places that wasn't developed yet. So now, what I'm saying, when I drive around and I go through the set and my neighborhood and anywhere in Southeast and San Diego, period. Not just in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods. When I go through, it's crazy because I look and I see all the new stuff that's there, and I still like remember all the old stuff that used to be there that's gone now. And not just in my neighborhood. Like I say, my neighborhood is, what I'm saying, changed a lot. It's crazy because a lot of people know where the Costco is on Market Street. And that's my neighborhood. When I was a kid, I grew up playing where the Costco is and all those businesses. That was all Canyon. That was called Jackrabbit Hill. I grew up playing there when I was a kid. And, what I'm saying, many a days we be, what I'm saying, out there, just running around being kids. And it's not like that no more. Now, what I'm saying, it's all city, everything's built up, and it's like, I don't know, you got a whole lot more weirdos than you had back then. I don't know where they come from. I don't know where they get them from, but it's way more weirdos. And you know what I mean? It's way too many people coming up missing. I don't know. I'm just I'll make sure mine taken care of. uh but so growing up, I was the only white boy in the hood. So basically I got picked on a lot, and I was a knucklehead, I was fighting back. What I'm saying, and it got to the point where, what I'm saying, I would let people beat me up so that they wouldn't go get their big brother, and I got tired of it. And eventually, I started fighting back, and now I'm talking about I'm 13 years old and I'm fighting grown men, and I'm coming out to the hood, what I'm saying, on the block with the homies and the big homies. Get your white ass up out of here. I ain't going nowhere. Bing, okay, I'm out of here. But the homie, the homie bust me in the mouth. So he was a grown man. So, here it is, we come back, another time. And he wasn't around. So I'm hanging out, everything is good. I'm chilling with the homies, and then, the homie pull up. And as soon as he see me, he on my head. What the fuck you doing over here, white boy? I thought I told you before not to come over here. Like, man, I ain't going nowhere. This neighborhood. And then I just fired on him because when he hit me in the mouth, I ran off. Maybe I bust him in his mouth. Maybe he gonna run off. That didn't work out because, like I said, he was a grown man, and I'm 13 years old. I'm big. I'm big for my age. I've always been, as big as people 2 years older than me. So I hit him in the mouth, and he got highly upset because he commenced to whooping my ass. I took off running. I ran up the hill, and he ran me down, caught me, tripped me, whooped on me some more. And then, I got up and ran again. And then, that's it, And he was a grown man. I was 13 years old. So I took a loss. I got my ass whooped. I went home, ribs hurting, side hurting, nose bleeding, lip busted, but I walked home. Okay. A little while later, I didn't have a home no more. So, when I was 13, I got put out on the streets. And, when you ain't got no place else to go, motherfuckers like, white boy, get your ass out of here. I ain't got nowhere else to go, And, I got into it with a gang of my homeboys, because some of them didn't want a white boy in the hood. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers don't want what you got a white boy from the motherfuckers making fun of you and shit. You know what I mean? I heard about, stories about what went on. But I got homies that love me. You know what I mean? I got some real homies. And I grew up in the trenches. I grew up with the homies. And I think all the stuff I went through, it helped me because if I wouldn't have went through it, I wouldn't be who I am now. And that's the thing, I'm not the best. I'm not perfect. I'm not I got more issues than tissues, but I'm still here. And I'm gonna keep pushing, can't stop. I'm living my best life. This is the best I've ever been doing. This is the most I've ever had. I got a new addition to my family coming. I'm blessed by the best, praying for the rest. Life is good. But I've been fighting all my life. I've been fighting to get here. When I was 13, I knocked my dad out. When I was a little kid, my dad, had a drinking problem. And when he got to drinking too much, he started hitting people. And, I had, I had to hit back. So me and my dad fought a couple times. And then this one time, I'm sitting there, I'm standing there, I'm dazed, I've been hit a few times. And he's laying on the ground taking a nap. And I'm standing there and I'm looking down at him like, what, is he dead? And I got scared because, I don't want him dead. This is my dad, I don't want to kill him. But, I just don't want to be hit no more. I don't want to see you hit no more of my family. This. So anyway, I see him moving. So I figure, okay, usually when I get my ass whooped, I go to the other room and that's it. That's all, right? So he goes to his bottle and that's it. That's all, So one time, I ain't never won before. Now I'm like I said, I'm 13 years old. And now, I just knocked my dad out. So when he wakes up and he realizes what happened, he went and got his pistol. And he came out and, he was, you got to go. So, I'm 13 years old. I don't understand this. Where I'm going to go. I don't, where the hell I'm going to go. I don't know. And, my mom couldn't help me because she'd get belted, so I remember I ended up going to the canyon and sleeping we had a bamboo clubhouse. Like I said, I was 13 years old. We had a clubhouse in the bushes and the bamboo trees in the canyon. and it had like carpet and what is that, cardboard on the floor, and this was, had a couple little stools or something, and this was our little hangout. And I would figure, I'm saying, I'm just gonna sleep there, and I'm saying, get up in the morning and then go from there. Oh man, that was the worst thing ever. I'm laying there in the canyon on top of some, I'm saying, some cardboard in the canyon in a clubhouse. Man, next thing I'm saying, I fell asleep. I was tired. I fell asleep. It was late. It didn't take long. I'm saying, I got woke up. I got woke up by all the bugs crawling all over me, man. Freaked me the fuck out. I had shit crawling all over me. It was over with. That was it. No more sleeping in the canyon for me. I can't be homeless. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go take somebody else. I'm gonna have to take somebody else's shit. So, I don't know. I can't do this. I gotta do something. But anyway, one thing led to another, and I ended up fighting and fighting and fighting. That was the last time, I'm saying, with my dad. He pulled a gun out. That was it. It was over with. You think you're grown, get your ass up out of here. So I thought I was grown, because my homeboy put me in the dope house. I was 13 years old. By the time I was 14, I had my own apartment. And I wasn't rich. I wasn't balling. I was, what I'm saying, I was selling crack and I was making money, but I wasn't, what I'm saying, I wasn't doing nothing. I confined myself to the hood. What I'm saying, we had scanners. We thought we was high tech. Yeah, like I say, I'm a small time hustler. That's all I've ever been, is a small time hustler. Now I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business owner. I'm a man. I'm trying to be the best man I can be. It ain't easy sometimes, because it's easy to go the wrong route and do the wrong thing. But standing tall means doing what's right, even when no one's looking. So even when I ain't gonna get no credit for it, I ain't gonna get no brownie points, no stripes, no nothing, you still got to do the right thing. And that's hard sometimes, because the country, the way things are, they make it easy for you to want to go and go the easy route, but it don't ever work out. I've tried every possible way. I've been in I've been in the illegal life all my life. I think I was, I'm saying, raised in it. It was, part of the way I came up. Pops was the first one. He taught me, boy, you go through a grocery store, you get full. When you leave out the grocery store, you shouldn't be hungry. That's because he's munching all through the store. But that wasn't a good lesson. But that's the thing. I've had to rewire my brain to do things differently. And like I say, this is the longest I've been out of prison since I was 9 years old. This is the best I've ever been doing. And life keeps getting better. I can complain about this and that, but I don't even want to hear it. No one likes a complainer. I'm living my best life. I'm living better than I've ever done before. I'm not inside of a cage. I don't have to get up and shower when you tell me. I don't have to get up and go to chow when you tell me. I don't have to get up and go to yard when you tell me. I don't have to stand for your count. I don't have to do none of that. I live in my own house. I'm the king of my castle. And life is good. The family's growing. This is such a blessing. I'm gonna be a grandfather. Life is good. Hey, you see? Wait a minute. Oh, this side. Yeah, there it is. That's it. Just trying to get some fishing in. But nah, life is good. I've been out here. This is the longest I've been out of prison, since I was 9 years old. And people don't know I'm coming up on 9 years. And it's not symbolic, but like I said, that's the longest. I was born. I don't know if I was good then, but I'm saying, I was born in 72, so that was a that was a rough one. At least that's what my mom always told me. But I'm here, and this is, you know what I'm saying, this is going to be a milestone for me because this is as long as I've been out since I was 9 years old. Because, like I said, I've been in and out of juvenile facilities to camp, juvenile facilities to county jail to prison to out living my best life. I'm not rich. I ain't got everything. I struggle. I have issues. I got, I'm used to going to the canteen once a month. You live from month to month. You prepare for lockdowns, just in case you got to have enough stuff stocked up to last you. So I have that same mentality out here. And I'm used to, if I'm in there and I need something, I just go get it. I'll pay you back later. I'm a hustler. I'm going to come up with something. Even if I don't have it, I'm going to come up with something, especially if I need. And, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to need, so I'm going to go get it. If I want it, I'm saying, I'm going to need that. So, like I say, I'm a small time hustler and I'm always trying to go get it. But then I got to the point where they had a thing in prison. Okay, I was in prison in the 90s. This was back in the day. So I first went to prison in 1991. I got an H number. Yeah, you never forget your number. H36964. So I ended up going to prison and what I'm saying, I started out level one, and as soon as I hit the place, I'm saying, got into some stuff and went to the hole, and then I was level two, and then I went to level two, and then I got into some stuff there, and then, I'm saying, I became level three, and then, I'm saying, I was able to do like almost 3.5 years in Corcoran, and I paroled from the main line. I went to Corcoran for the shoe program, but I spent most of my shoe time, waiting for transfer. If anybody knows, you know how it goes. But that's the thing. As soon as I got off the bus, as soon as I got off the prison bus, I was, the cops. They call them the Goon Squad. If you know, you know. Corcoran back in the 1990s. This was 1992. So anybody that knows, Corcoran back then was ugly, and it was a lot of stuff going on with officers setting up fights with having the inmates fights so they could bet on it, and it was a big thing. And they had the feds. The feds came into the prison and supposedly, I'm saying, cleaned everything up. But I'm saying, that's how that goes. The police did what they did. They all working together. They all on the same team. Anyway, so they changed some stuff and changed some rules, but you still got situations. I swear I'm not there, but what I'm saying, I swear there's situations today where officers take advantage of their power and do some vile things to the inmates. And no one's going to believe him because he's an inmate. And, for the most part, that's the way it is. I personally believe that the police allow cell phones in the institutions. With the last term I did in prison, I did 5 years on my last term, and I bought a cell phone from a correctional officer. He told me he was trying to get money for a boat for his vacation. But that's the way it is in prison. But like I said, when I first got to Corcoran, I got there for the shoe program. So I went to the shoe program. I ended up getting into it with an officer. So now this is all about fighting. So when I got there, I thought I was tough. I've been fighting all my life. I grew up in the hood. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've been, I'm saying, shooting the shoulders with the best of them, and I only been knocked out one time. And that was, by one of my big homies. EO, I love you. But I've been hit. I've been hit a lot. I've been hit a bunch of times. Uh, I don't know. It's a few screws loose up there, but I'm saying, I still got most of them. And that's the thing, I'm lucky. I'm blessed. I'm still here. I could have been gone a long time ago. So when I get to Corcoran and I hit the shoe program and I got an attitude. I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm mad at the world. Why? Because the world was mad at me. And I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm talking shit, So there was this officer and he was half black and half white. And he was calling me a wigger and a wannabe because I'm white and I'm in a black gang. So he's, trying to, crack jokes and I got jokes too. I've been getting clowned all my life. So, I'm usually the first target, because I stand out in my crowd because hey, I'm real light skinned. Nah, but you know what I'm saying? For real, I've always stood out and you know what I'm saying, so when it comes to cracking jokes, if you start, I will talk bad about you. I will make you not want to be my friend anymore. Uh I have lost friends from, you know what I'm saying, from basing. That's what we used to call it, basing, cracking jokes, clowning. But that's the thing, I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying, I'm trying to be a nice guy and not talk about people. But I love it so much. Nah, you know what I'm saying? I grew up with a big brother, you know what I'm saying? I had a big brother who was there for me growing up and he was always, have my back whenever I needed somebody to scoop me up and pull me away from the BS and get me back on, you know what I'm saying, a good track and then I would always, you know what I'm saying, go back to where I'm comfortable, where it's easy, where, you know what I'm saying, I feel like I wanted to be and I was in the set in the streets and they kept calling and I ended up going back and then, I'm saying, everybody knows what it leads to. It's a setup. It's called a trap. It's called a trap. So we up in the trap so much, we end up caught. And then when we caught, what do you mean we not prepared? We knew this was part of the job. Why didn't we prepare for this? So that's the thing. You learn from your mistakes. And if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're forced to repeat your mistakes. And I done repeated a few of them. Believe me, I done banged my head against the wall a couple times. So now here I am in Corcoran. I got this cop and he's talking shit. And I'm talking shit back. And so I'm take your badge and gun off and bring your bitch ass up in this cell. So I'm talking shit. And then finally, he took his belt off with his baton, his mace, and you know what I'm saying. Came up in my cell. I thought he was joking. I thought he was just gonna, you know what I'm saying, turn around and he had him open up the door and he came up in there. But when he came up in there, he came up in there to wrestle. And that was a bad move because, he's coming to wrestle thinking of grabbing me and doing this and that. And I'm just thinking about, hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to bank you off this and I'm going to bank you off that. And I'm banging him into bunks and walls, making him touch every piece of the cell. And then, you know what I'm saying? I end up maneuvering into a chokehold. Now I got a sleeper and the sleeper's locked in deep. He's going and he taps. So, okay, I let him go. Come on, it's a correctional officer. I kill him, you know what I'm saying? I'm as good as dead. I don't know this, but you know what I'm saying? I ain't a killer. You know what I mean? I ain't a killer. Just don't push me. But he taps. I let him go. He gets up. He leaves out of my cell. But now everybody's heckling because everybody's talking shit. I'm telling what happened, but didn't nobody see it. And then, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling him he tapped and he tapped out. And so, you know what I'm saying? He tapped out. I let him go. He tapped out. I let him go. Man, you know what I'm saying? Why'd I run my mouth? Because I was running my mouth on a tear to everybody. Oh, yeah. But then, now, if anybody knows in the shoe is called segregated housing unit. This is the hole. This is the hole for the hole. So when you go to the hole, if it's, you know what I'm saying, little time, you just go to the hole. But if you go to the shoe, that's like long-term hole time. So I got sent to the shoe for, you know what I'm saying, a knife in another prison. So I did most of my time waiting for transfer in the hole in another prison. So when I got here, I only had 2 months left on my shoe term, and then they was gonna have to cut me loose to a main line. So here I am, it's what uh the police. I done made him tap out, and I'm talking shit on the tier, telling everybody, and it's 3 in the morning. And now anybody that knows, the cell door doesn't open unless you stick your hands back there and let them cuff you up so that you're not a threat. Otherwise, they doing cell extractions. That's totally different. You don't want that, because then they're gonna wait and they're gonna bring every cop they can, and they're gonna run like 25 cops up in the cell and smash you, and then beat the brakes off of you, and then you know what I'm saying. That's when the fighting starts. But yeah, so I end up, running my mouth, and then the cops I'm in my bed, sleep. It's like 2, 3 in the morning. I don't know, what I'm saying. All of a sudden, my door starts opening up. And, what I'm saying, the door opens up and cops run up in there, and they had full gear on, helmets, everything. I couldn't see nothing. It was still dark. They had helmets and everything, and they spread me out. They basically, they jumped on me, smashed me down, held me, and then stretched me out. And then somebody was just beating me. I don't know what they said. They said I was beat with a flapjack because I told people what and they was like, yeah, they had a flapjack. I didn't know what a flapjack was, and I found out it's a piece of lead with like leather wrapped around it. So it don't, oh man, I had purple, blue marks all over my body from my shoulders to my feet. They beat me. They didn't hit me in my head or my face, but from my shoulders to my feet, my ribs, look, man, my legs, they beat my feet, the sides, the bottom. Man, I was fucked up. I was beat up. I laid on the floor for a day and a half, and they would put the breakfast tray on my tray slot, and then they come by with the trash can and they dump it in the trash can and close the tray slot and go on about their business. And I lay right there on the floor. And then I didn't get to see no medical, no nothing, because we don't want no evidence that something happened. So I'm locked up in there. That's it. That's all. And it took me a day and a half just to get off the floor. I ain't never been beat like that before. And I didn't want to be beat like that no more. I'll be good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Nah, the police beat the brakes off of it. I ain't never been beat like that. I was pissing blood for 2 weeks. It was bad. It was bad. But then after a month, the lieutenant called me in the office and then had a recorder on the table. I guess somebody reported that I had an altercation with one of his officers, and he wanted me to make a statement, and I don't know what you're talking about. So, he had the recorder, and I'm like, I ain't got nothing to say, nothing. I don't, nothing on recorded, nothing. I'm just shaking my head. So he turned the recorder off, and then he told me, "So you didn't get into it. You didn't have a visit from any of my officers." I'm like, "Nope, I don't know what you're talking about." It's like, "Well, you didn't get into it with officer such and such." I'm like, "Nope, I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "Well, you didn't have a night visit from some of my officers." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. You got me mixed up with somebody else." And he's like, "You know what? If you see some of my officers again, are we gonna have any problems?" I'm like, "You ain't gonna have no more problems out of me. I'm sorry. I'll be good." you know. And I'm serious. I ain't never been beat like that. So the dude, he cut me loose early, like a month early from my shoe, and cut me loose to the main line, level 3 yard, the C yard in Lancaster. And I went out there and did my time and ended up paroling and going home. Corcoran, there was a lot of stuff going on. It was a real violent place. There was a lot of stabbing. I seen some crazy stuff. I seen people get shot, killed. The worst one, it was a guy, I knew him. He got shot in the leg. He was in a fight with another guy, and then he kicked the guy. So tower shot him, but the tower shot him in the leg and ended up hitting his main vein. And by the time somebody got to him, he had already bled to death. They let him just sit there and bleed out on the yard. And it was fucked up. But the police was real dirty there. The police, I was there, and an officer told another guy, L.A. Crip, he was like, "Don't have me do you like I did your homeboy." And literally, this cop was in the building because he was in the tower on the yard, and he shot somebody, and he killed a guy. And this dude was from the same guy's neighborhood, and it was some cold shit to tell somebody something like that. And no, it's okay. They can just do whatever they want. And that's some foul shit, because the police were killing people. And it went on for a long time before one cop finally said something. One CO said something after all those years. And it was foul, because I heard Pelican Bay got the same shit. They was doing some foul shit. I ain't never been to the Bay, luckily. But I know people that have. And it don't matter where you at. Doing time is not worth it's not worth none of it. Don't fight. Find something better to do, man. The slow hustle is the for show hustle. Go get an education. They will pay you to go to school. Go get that. Come back with that. Then turn it into something. You know, I educated myself in prison. D Nice. What's up, Snow? This is D from OKC. What's up, brother? Thanks for tapping in, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Yeah, man. I was just talking about prison, and man, I'm so happy I'm not there anymore. But that's the thing, I've been out here working and living, and I've been through ups and downs, and I'm still going, and it's just like I'm the little train. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And as long as I keep going, it gets better. Now sometimes it's hard, but that's when you're going uphill. That's when you run into adversity, you run into problems, you run into pitfalls. You know what I'm saying? But if you keep going, you get ahead, you get over, you get past, and then you get to put it in neutral and coast down the hill. That's when it's a good time. That's when, you get to enjoy, you get to be with your family, your loved ones. What's good, Snow? What's cracking? Man, out here living life, man, living the best one. Things keep getting better. I'm about to be a grandfather, life keeps getting better. I'm blessed. Man. But yeah, I was talking about Corcoran, and I spent too many years stuck in a cage, because I spent over 20 years in the California prison system. My first term, I went in for 4 years with halftime. I ended up doing almost three and some change because I caught time because I was white and I was running with the Crips. And that, it was it was a lot of problems because of that. I guess I didn't know how it was. Well, I heard, all the stories before I even came to prison. I had people telling me, boy, don't never go to prison. If you go to prison, then white boys gonna kill you. So I came thinking, and they tried. Believe me, they tried. I've been stabbed 13 times. I've been shot. I've been in more fights than I can remember. And life wasn't easy, but I'm still here. And that, that is something. I'm not, I'm not here to brag and pat myself on the back. I survived. I figure, the man upstairs kept me here for a reason, and all the stuff that I've been through is for a reason. I'm here, to tell my story so that somebody else can learn and don't fall in the same pitfalls, don't fall in the same traps, don't get caught in the same, BS that I got caught up in. Because they had me out here, fighting and trying to, and I'm fighting my own neighbors. These are the people I grew up with. I'm not, The whole game was twisted. And if anybody knows, you know. But I'm trying to do something different now. I'm look, standing tall through it all, trying to, I'm saying, get as many people as I can, to keep this going, because standing tall is about doing what's right, even when no one's looking. And that's the thing, you don't get credit for that. No brownie points, no stripes, no pat on the back, no, I'm saying, atta boy. Just, I'm saying, just do it because it needs to be done. It's a lot more of that needs to go around. And I'm learning this stuff. This didn't come to me easily. I learned from making mistakes, from banging my head against the wall. I tried to do all the legal stuff you could think of. I've tried this, I've tried that, and it's not worth it, man. I've been out here 8 years, and this is the longest I've been out since I was 9 years old. It's sad that I'm 53 and I'm saying that, but I've been out 8 years, and that's the longest I've been out since I was 9 years old. And I've been a part of the California system. I've been a slave to the system. But I use the system. I educated myself. I got my GED in prison. I got a bunch of vocational, saying, that I don't use, that I don't want to use. I don't want uh some of the things, and then I got out and I started working, and I learned that, if you want to learn something, the way to learn it is in the field by doing it, not by sitting in a class looking at pictures about it. So, I was out in the field. Hey, boss, I want to learn this. So hey, will you train me and apprentice, give me and I learned a whole bunch of stuff. I got certified in a whole bunch of stuff. But that's the best way to learn, because the people come to our job with these educations where I went through this class and I studied, and by the time you get there, the technology has advanced. And when stuff is going in the ground, it's always the newest, the latest, technology is always going into the ground. So, the stuff you learned is obsolete by the time you get out into the field after you've been in school, got in looking for a job, found a job. So, training is constant. And that's the thing. The company that I work for is very, very proficient in that. They got us all, they give us the best equipment, they keep us, I work for the best company ever. Don't get me wrong. The white Denzel. You think Big U is in PC? I don't know. I don't know Big U. I'm from San Diego. I'm not a gossip. My bad, but not my cup of tea, player. I don't know the dude. Never met the dude. I don't. I can't really. I don't know. I'm not the one. To be speaking on somebody else. Just not my cup of tea. It's a bad look anyhow, if you think about it. I'm trying to, focus on some positivity. I hope, I hope they all, get up out of the situations they in, and get themselves right, whatever they gotta do. They got rolling 60s in San Diego. Yeah, we got Linda Vista 60s. It's rolling 60s, but it's different. It's not connected. It's not neighborhood. It's Linda Vista. It's a whole separate thing. But yeah, they're 60s because they're in I think it's the 6,000 block or 60s, something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, you would have to speak to somebody from Linda Vista. I don't know the whole history. I know, you need to holler at Whack Deuce. Whack Deuce from Linda Vista. He the only other white crip that I know of besides, Little Snow. And that's just my partner. He he's a positive man. But no, I hope Wax doing better. I heard he was having some health issues. If you out there, Whack, we love you, man. Get yourself together, holler at your boy. Yeah, Denzel, I don't really, I don't really get in other people's business. because I don't know that man. I don't know his situation. I don't know none of his business. And my opinion on it is my opinion. And you know what I'm saying? It's you know what I mean, it ain't worth nothing. I ain't nobody, man. I'm a small time hustler out here trying to make it. That's it, that's all. But life been good to me. Life been good to me. I got a beautiful wife. I got a grandchild. I got a granddaughter coming. I'm gonna be a grandpa, people. Man, life keeps getting better. Life keeps getting better. So, you know what I'm saying? Back to these fights. I've been fighting and fighting ever since, when I first went to prison. It was rough because I was on the bus, and there was a guy telling me he was gonna stab me. And I didn't know what to do. So, when we got to the point where they take off your handcuffs, and you know you have the opportunity to run up, he never ran up. And so I didn't know nothing. You know what I'm saying? I waited, and see when he did, and he, went on about it. And he was in front of me, so they ended up had him locking up in the cell. So then, it wasn't an issue because I had issues with other people, and they, spoke up and stepped up, and I ended up, getting into it. And my first fight was with a white guy under the stairs in the C section, and it was during day room, so it was a distraction supposed to be, played out on the other side of the day room to get the officers to focus over there. And then when that happens, me and this guy will go under the stairs one on one and get down. And hopefully the police don't see. If the police see, then the police sees. So, the police were distracted. We get down, the dude got me a little bit, but you couldn't tell because he got a good uppercut and he busted my lip because he pulled my shirt up like that hockey. Because when we locked up, he grabbed my shirt and pulled my shirt up over my head. So then he caught me with one of the uppercuts and he busted my lip. But you couldn't see it because I'm sucking the blood back and not letting nobody see it. And we get out, we lock up, and then he pulled my shirt up on me, and I backed up and he caught me with the uppercut. I came out of my shirt, and then, we squared up again. And then this time, I caught him when he was coming in and he hit his back pockets. So when he went down, motherfucker was like, that's it. And that means, get the fuck away, so the police don't catch you. So once he hit his pockets, I walk around, over by the phones. And my homeboy like, you all right? You all right? And my shirt got ripped over there. So my homeboy had gave me another shirt, a t-shirt, and put his jumpsuit on, to cover up. So then, after that, we were locked down, and then it was didn't nobody. I don't know how the police. Somebody, had their little microphone in the cell. Hey, there was a fight, and the police came and got the guy that I got into it with and me, and then took us over to the lieutenant. And all right, you guys gonna have any problems? You know, man, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. And then they tell us everything that happened. You guys did this. You guys did this. You guys did this. You guys set up a distraction over here so that you could do this and that. And it was like, man, it is what it is. I never, no confession, no case. But in there, they don't have to prove you're guilty. They just have to, think you're guilty, and that's it. And then they can give you more time. That's what's messed up. And I learned the hard way, when piss the police off, they will, fuck your date off. And when I say that, it's they mess up your release date. They make you stay longer, and one day longer in that cage is not a happy day. And I ended up okay on. I was my first term. I was sentenced to 4 years with 80% with halftime. 4 years with halftime. So you're supposed to do two, but I ended up doing 3 years and 2 months because I kept getting into it with, with the whites, and you know the racial stuff was a big issue because everywhere I went, the police immediately look, do you want to go PC, do you want to go over here, and they'll tell me, oh yeah, ain't no Crips, it's just mostly Pyrus out here, and you know what I mean, they'll try and scare you with everything. Oh yeah, it's a whole bunch of Nazis on the yard, you don't want to go out there. Like, man, look, just drop me off and I'll deal with however I got to deal with. And during that time, this was in the '90s, so I was, at the time, I was dealing with the Nazi lowriders, and I had, what I'm saying, like I said, I got stabbed. I got stabbed a couple times, but I'm still here, still here. And every prison I ever went to, the police tried to talk me into going PC, going into SNY, which is sensitive needs yard, and you know what I'm saying, I don't understand it, because that's, the system is fucked up now because they have more SNYs or PCs than they have general population people. And that's crazy because, you know, when I first started going to prison, it wasn't a lot of, prisons that were PC prisons. It was a few yards here and there. That's it. And then, what I'm saying, it just more and more and more and more. And right before I was released, they was talking about how there was more uh, protective custodies and sensitive needs people than there was general population. And it's like, that's crazy because, they're talking about, when I was in there, the most violent people were the PCs, the sensitive needs, because the people that were in gangs over here that had drug debts that didn't, that rolled up. Now when you roll up, you have to tell everything you know. That's called debriefing. So when they debrief, then they get to go out here to the yard with the rest of the PCs, the child molesters, the rapists, the snitches, the, you know, uh, whatever sorry piece of crap you could find is over there. And they're all over there for a reason. But they were the most violent ones, not the general population. And that was because the staff made this situation. They created this whole thing, and that's the thing. The staff got to keep the inmates fighting the inmates so that they can't fight against the staff. And it's, I'm saying, basic divide and conquer. I've seen them start racial riots. I've seen them, incite people. I've seen them give people life sentences for lies. I was there. I seen the situation. A cop grabbed a guy by the arm. The guy pulled away. Cop can't just grab you. He has to tell you to get on the wall or something like that. He can't just grab you. You're a man. So when he grabbed the guy pulled away. The cop fell. He was a chubby, he wasn't in shape. He wasn't ready to go. He was, and what I'm saying, he fell. He just fell, and he was embarrassed. So he said that the guy hit him. And now here it is, what I'm saying, the guy, I seen the incident when it happened. I wasn't too far. And then the guy ended up going to the hole. So I didn't see him. And then here it is, like a year later, I go to the hole for a situation where, I got stabbed. I think it was a riot. Yeah. So it was the first riot I was in Lancaster. So I went to the hole, and this dude was still in the hole, and he was talking to me. Yeah, man, what I'm saying? I'm still in here because of that. I'm going to court. They got a kangaroo court here where the judge comes in, a public defender, and a DA, and they, I'm saying, have court right here in the prison. I think they're trying to give me life. Like, what? What? And he's like, yeah, the cop, I'm saying? Because we didn't see the cop no more. the cops been out on, you know what I'm saying, on leave. He got injured and he feels, oh man, this fool is lying and basically a piece of shit. He's trying to, get all he can get and have to do nothing. And it's foul because, this man is getting a life sentence for that. And I don't know how it turned out. I hope he didn't, but that's the way it is. And then I've seen, for what I know, most people just take the deal, right before you go to trial, they offer you that deal. And sometimes it's a fucked up deal, but it's better than, life sentence. And that's the thing, people don't understand when you facing that L. It can be, a misdemeanor, and they'll turn it into a felony, and now you locked up for the rest of your life. No more coming out of this cage. No more being a free man. No more able to get up and do what I do, how I do, when I do, the way I want to do it, just because I want to do it. No more. This is some real shit, man. People don't know. This ain't a game. It's people that have been stuck in that cage for decades. Decades. The first interview I ever did was with Mitch. And if you ain't never seen Hard Intentions, go check him out. Mitch, he got a decent channel. But I did time with Mitch. He was a straight dude, you know what I mean? And I got a lot of respect for him. But even Mitch, this it ain't worth it. He did 34 years straight. 34 years straight. Nah, ain't nothing worth it. The system, they just trying to keep you stuck up in there so that they have slaves to do their work for them. Stop letting them get you, people. Don't let them trick you out your bag. Man. So I've been here, I got out and I got a job. Best thing ever happened to me. I got into a drug program, got myself, straight mentally. And now I still have issues. I've been diagnosed with PTSD. I've been, I work on that. I work on self constantly. And that's everybody's responsibility to constantly upgrade self. Because if you ain't doing it, who is? Ain't nobody gonna do it for you? It's time to get up. Go get that. Come back with that. We can split that. You know what I mean? All right. So yeah, like I said, I've been fighting all my life. I remember, when we first moved into the hood. I remember coming home. I had a bloody nose or a busted lip. I don't know. I was bleeding. And I came in the house, my mom, boy, what's wrong with you? And so my mom takes me in the bathroom, washes me up. Boy, and I'm like, Mom, can we move, please? Like, what? Boy, we ain't got no money to move. Get your ass back outside and play. So I come back around the corner, I ain't bleeding no more. Mama done, and wipe my nose up, clean me up. And I come back, like, what you doing back over here? I ain't got nowhere else to go. So that was the beginning, and, I was a kid, so I was scared and I would let people hit on me so that they don't go get their big brother. Because the first time I tried it, I got in a fight with this guy and I won. And then he just went and got his big brother. And then he came back and he whooped my ass. Now, he was 2 years older than me, but I was just a little bit smaller than him. He didn't whoop me by that much. But so after that, I can't mess with one because the other one is going to jump in. So it was all bad, but ain't no stopping, and it got to the point where, everybody gets to the point where they had enough. And then I think Popeye said it first, that's all I can stands and I can't stands no more. And people know, if you ever been to that point, When you get to that point where that's all you can stand, you can't stand no more, somebody about to get busted in the mouth. And I learned, you know what I'm saying, that if you bust first, you usually win. If you think about it, think about it, Now that's not every time, you know what I'm saying? Some people, but hey, I'm scary. I will tell you, if I'm a big guy, but I'm scary. So if you start yelling at me and you're close to me, I'm gonna swing because I think you're gonna swing on me. That's the only thing you're getting ready to do. So I'm gonna beat you to the punch, and while you run in your mouth, I'm gonna hit you in your mouth. But no, I try. You know what I'm saying? I'm a man of peace. You know, and hey, everybody needs a piece. So I'm a man of peace. Now this is my piece. Now the rest of it is for everybody else, but this is my piece. The other one, that one goes for everybody else, but this one's mine. Keeping this one. Nah, I just try and, I try and have fun. I don't want to fight nobody. I ain't never liked to fight. Growing up, I was fighting all my life. Like I said, this is about. I've been fighting all my life. But growing up, I always wanted to be a pretty boy. Never quite worked out. Guess it just wasn't made for me. That's okay. I'm blessed by the best, praying for the rest. So yeah, y'all, you know what I'm saying? I've been fighting since I was a kid, and I'm done. I'd have had enough. Um I'd have had enough. I'm good. I'm trying to enjoy myself. I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to get up, get out, and get something. Don't let the days of your life pass by. I'm trying to get up, get out, and get something. Don't spend all your time trying to get high. No, life is good. I'm doing the best, living the best, and it keeps getting better. No complaints from me. So, hey y'all, it's been about an hour. I've been on here running my mouth and running my mouth. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got anything they want to hear about? Uh, if not, I'm gonna be bringing this one to a close. Going once. Oh, how hard is it to keep a shank inside? Do they search cells often or only if you get mixed up in something? It's not hard at all because you can make a shank out of just about anything. And for the most part, most shanks in prison aren't like real industrial steel. Is, you know what I'm saying, a little flimsy. And like I've been stabbed 13 times, and most of them were minor nicks and cuts. Like I remember a guy had a ink pen, and he had it was like a 16 penny nail melted into the ink pen, so that the pen was the handle, and then you take the cap off and you expose the head of the nail, and you can stab somebody with it. But no, and sad. This is a sad story, but the first time I got in a situation where, sometimes they have lockdowns because something happened. Somebody got stabbed, and died. Something big happened. There was a riot. There was a fight with a bunch of people involved, or somebody attacked staff. Police will get back. But that's when they come around and they do a big search. So they'll search the whole yard, but they're coming. If you're in building one, you're probably going to get searched first. If you're in, you know what I'm saying, the middle building, that's the best, because you have a little time. You hear, oh, they're searching, so you have time to get ready. And I was in a situation where we knew they were coming, and my cellie, you know what I'm saying, we had two knives in the cell. So we ended up, you know what I'm saying, having to keister the knife. Basically, you wrap it up, and and hoop it, but it was a piece of metal. It was a real, a pretty good piece of steel. I got another question. Did the AB ever step to you? Well, yes, but not face to face. I've had the the brand and the Nazi lowriders and the skinheads. They had hits out on me the whole time I was out. I was in prison because I was considered a race traitor because I'm white, yet I ran with the Crips, which was a black street gang. So because of this, I was like the most hated person in prison because all the whites, not all the whites, because I a lot of the whites, I had situations where they tried to put one guy in my cell. His wife was black, and he was scared of what the whites were going to do to him because his wife was black. They tried to put me in a cell with a guy. He was a Muslim. He was white, but he was a Muslim. Uh, it was a lot of different situations, and anybody in that situation, anybody that knows how it is in California prison system, if you back then, this is back then. I hear that they don't trip like that no more. But back then, it was an open. It was like green light. The Nazi lowriders and the Aryan Brotherhood and the skinheads, you know, tried to get me. I believe at the time the Nazi lowriders were trying to be the next generation of the AB, but they didn't have it, and it didn't work out. It ended up all bad for all of them. Long story short. But that's another story for another time. Anybody got anything else? But yeah, the AB, I'm saying, they were sending people. They were sending people, put it like that. And it was a lot of situations where people were sent to come stab me or do something to me. And then, oh, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then because they got high, drugs is a motherfucker, and people get over there, and because I was in Donovan, I did a lot of time in Donovan. I did almost I think almost 9 years in Donovan on a level 3 yard back in I got there in 1998, and it was different, because it wasn't what it is now. But it was the best time I ever did. Anybody knows, anybody did time with me in Donovan, I got a whole bunch of stories about how we made the best of a bad situation. It was prison, but it was the best time I ever did. Not saying any time is good time, but I'm saying that's as comfortable as you can get. And that was, I'm saying, doing time at home in Donovan because we were right here, so we had so much access because we know people on the streets. We can make things happen. It was a lot of stuff going on. And I'm sure it still is because the officers, how they make their money. You guys might think they all, I'm saying, all good, but that's not reality. Reality is a cop talking about, man, I want a new boat for my vacation this year. Yeah, he's trying to get some extra money, and somebody's going to tap into that. But that's the way it is. Wherever you at, whatever you doing, is somebody trying to, I'm saying, get you to do something to work a twist. So that's the thing. Advice for the day: no twisting. Hey, everybody. I'm gonna have to let this one go. Anybody got any last questions? If not, I'm tapping out. Y'all have a good one. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.